The same energy pool, right? The same energy pool that we could call creation. Okay, it employs, it implores, it vacuums, it over renounces, it under renounces, it over extremes, it under extremes. It causes thought process. It causes a lot of things. But when you have an energy pool, yeah, my cat. He's my cat. He's my best friend. It causes an energy pool, a stream force of light, reactant to all ventures. Okay? And if you use this, right, to your advantage, like they say, using polarity or energy or creation or your creator or whatever, right? What's up with this tail? But if you use all this, right, for your creation, and like if you wake up and you're still tired and you're trying to go back to sleep and you can't, that's not what you should be doing. The energy is telling you to do something else. And if you're tired, your subconscious mind tends to be more aware and alert. Tired people, like if you walk around exhausted all the time, they don't believe in bullshit. They just want to go to sleep, and they can't, because it's not that they're tired; it's they're subconsciously aware. Okay, and so if you're very tired and you wake up and you can't go back to sleep, get up, put on a tape, or learn a language, or do something. You retain information better when you're tired, because your subconscious mind retains it, and your subconscious controls the conscious. And you should never try to obliterate something that you can't do. You should overcome something you can't do. And so if you create, instead of a language, let's say you create something during your tired sleep phase. I'm tired now. It's because it's because you needed to change, and your conscious mind isn't creating it. You're not hearing your subconscious mind. There's change. When you're tired a lot and it's different, it's because you need to change. You're transforming. You know what I mean? But you're still waking up like, oh man, I'm gonna go back to sleep. No. Get up and change something. The change will stick in longer. The change will be there longer. It will always be there longer. My best buddy, Simba. My son-in-law named him. We found the big little kitten. He's done everything with me my whole life. Builds with me. He does everything with me. But don't rub on the phone. They can see you. They can see you, but run away. But if you do this, right, and you come up with ideas and create things, right, and then you write them down or keep them somewhere. All right, you're done. You're fired. You're fired. And you keep them somewhere, right, or you tell someone. It doesn't matter what you tell someone. It matters when you tell someone. If you tell a 16-year-old something, and they're tired, what I tell you? See, that bites me. Get out. And they're tired. They will retain that information, and in 5 years they can tell you exactly what they retained from that time. Remember when Dad told us this crazy thing? Remember Mom once said this crazy thing, but they were tired and they wanted to go back to sleep, but they couldn't. See, and then it doesn't matter when they say it again. It'll bring itself out. It'll come to the surface when the light perceives it. When the energy sees it pushing around. When you're doing something and you're slow or you don't want to do this, it'll push it out to somebody else. And with more people you know, the more chance it has to be. You know what I mean? If you've never had anybody in your life, no one, like you sat alone all the time, and there's nobody else to tell an idea to, or anything like that, right? If there's nobody ever to tell, you would stop creation. It doesn't matter. See, that's what people miss. It doesn't matter if you do it or somebody else creates it, or if it's your idea. People get offended by the idea. The person that started the idea had to hear it from your thought process. So that makes them inset family group. And very rarely do you meet people that come in and say, your people and my people don't like each other, and this is the only time we'll see each other. Very, very rarely. Most people are in arguments, but not over that. Most people. They just don't get along because they just don't want to. It's just one of them things. And when you get that out, if it changes dramatically a stage on this planet just because you aren't vesseled with wealth now, your wealth is your knowledge base, not your memory. So if you could retain the information that your knowledge base knew, speak it into existence around other people, and then they speak it into existence. It could perceive to exist even though it didn't exist through you. And that's not being lazy, because next time the existence will perceive that you did that. And then when you exist again, it will change. Sometimes things are on a grander scale than the 15 minutes of now. Then you're thinking, this is never going to happen, or this is going to happen. You got to understand that, like a Ram, the day that the first one told the second one what they had to do was the day the first one knew that the 131st one would be doing it right. It would be all in his ballpark. It would be all in his line of increments. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, just because you think it's a great idea and you can't get it off the ground, or it won't start, it's because not enough of the thought process of futures has passed through the same amount of pass to make it seem like a reflective reality. And telling it to your reflection is good, but if you stare too long at your reflection, how do you know which side you come back on? And what do you know about that reflection's other side? What do you really know about what he's doing? You just seen yourself looking at yourself from somewhere else. And don't see him again until he walks back in the room. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Go ahead, bye. Yeah. It's reflective to all pausality. You know what I mean? Like, controversially, it is a donut going all around you. Magnetic polarity energy in the infinite, the infinitesimal, from the infant oververt to the infinitesimal speck is all around you at all times. And you're rubbing it against everyone. And it's doing the same thing. Figure 8. The infinite sign. It is an infinite wisdom of energy that pulls in a polarity towards all destiny, abhors no vacuum, applies all polarity towards people, and has no digression on thought. And if you aren't using it, you're losing it. And if you aren't commanding that every speck of instance that you compel to be under in this realm, in this energy time, and aren't using it to your greatest advantage, you're doing something wrong. If defense creates enemies, then opposition creates friends. Just because you're opposing doesn't mean you're enemies. It means there's a greater resistance to create a larger effect. Wow. Mm-hmm. Do you understand that? So, whenever you're around resistance, try and create a larger effect, a grander scale of something. Look at it outside of your natural thought process. Don't look at it as a time to reevaluate life and destroy things. Look at it as a time where you could, on a grander scale, recondition life to be viewed in a greater polarity. Energy is not divided. It's poled. And not by positive, negative, by opposites. If there's one polarity that feels this way, somewheres there's a total opposite. And at any moment, the one that was opposite you could be opposite you again, and you could be the opposite of that. And then it could turn into the opposite of that. It could be the greatest positivity you've ever felt. And then it turns into the greater positivity you ever felt. And just because this is a negative, or just because this is an opposite positivity, it's still positivity. It's just the opposite, the project of you. The projection of your currency in volume is the same as the projection of currency in volume here. It knows no bounds of good and evil. It knows no bounds of secular motion. It knows it's a polarity that together is the most awesome thought you can have. Together, pieces fall into place. Opelling is when they don't. Apart is when they don't. If your signals never cross, you cannot perceive to egregiously manifest the creation of the greatest thing here. All as one, together, as were before. Divided we fell. Divided. In a CPU. When energy applied through force, be not repelled, but fractured. That's all for one. Cheese hole. Thousands of cheese holes. United and divided. So you have to unite again. The united front is the front that survives. The divided front is the front that is always looking over their back, wondering why the shadows are chasing them. It's not shadows. It's polarity looking to exist. You're not seeing it. You have fear. False evidence appeared real. Just because it's a dark force, just because it's in a pellet, does not mean it's not where it should be. Stop looking at things as they are where they are. Proceed to believe nothing can harm energy created. Don't run from the scary sound. You don't know what your will can handle till it be called upon. You don't know what your fracture retains till you've seen it give. You have to start doing. Man, there's probably so many ridiculous thoughts and ideas they could have manifested by now. And look where we've ended up. We've ended up to have a rescission of our own reality before we can take apart what is rightfully ours. Yeah. Everything. They did everything to stop us. They divided us into families, different set groups, and we all came from the same force. That's why we're all human. We all came from the same force. Divided. Until life starts realizing this, it's not going to change. To have a small part over here is to have a small part over there. All the books equal zero at the end of the day. All of them. That's why when people say, like, it took the Bible says it took 7 days to create the planet, create this place, whatever, right? And everybody goes, but we don't know the temperance of his futures to say how far his paths are. But there had to be a pellet in a control board that he was bouncing off of the opposite reflection. Or nothing would create. How could you have something without, how could you have nothing without something? And how could you have something without nothing? And if that is so, then nothing is something that you don't know about yet. So every time you're thinking of nothing, something is there. Because you know enough to say that it's nothing. And that's not some weird philosophy. That's just how it is. They'll sell you back 1/16 off of your body, everything, to you, to create the opposing to the repelling to the attaching. Because if they don't have one, you can't have the other. Without man and woman, there can never be child. You know what I mean? That's why 1 + 1 is always 3. 1 + 1 is always 3. You know what? Reefer movie? Harold and Kumar, right? The integer 3. And he says 1 + 1 may must not equal 3. Listen to what he says. I don't exactly remember how it goes, but it makes sense. It's always divisible to thee. It's always divisible to thee. 3 is always divisible to 1. Right? So, really, that's all I had to say for right now. I mean, even a reflective polarity could be a positive and negative, so always check in with your reflection. Just checked in to see what condition my condition was in. Because if you don't see an appellate on a reactive charge to gain interest by Earth to create more appellates, then the energy went full circle. Your white wire's broken somewhere. You have them more neutral. And away we go adrift into the negative of positive polarity only. And opposites attracting. Or opposites repelling. I don't know, man. They say the words. Look them up. I don't know, man. We got to do something. Got to get these people to turn the page. The page is never too fast to turn. But we got to get it on a turn of change, not a turn of overtaking. This is from my record. My record's all I see. If it makes anyone who has sense out of it, enable it for everyone to see. Thank you.